Some Nigerians claim political parties are being targeted for deregistration under the APC and President Bola Tinubu's government ahead of the 2027 election. Some Nigerians have alleged that certain political parties are being considered for deregistration ahead of the 2027 general election because they are viewed as potential threats to the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC). However, there has been no official confirmation that any specific political party has been deregistered on those grounds. Somehow, those expressing these concerns believe that any attempt to remove legally registered political parties from the electoral process could weaken Nigeria's multi-party democracy and reduce the choices available to voters. Some critics have also alleged that key democratic institutions, including the judiciary and the Independent National Electoral Commission, could come under political pressure during the build-up to the 2027 elections. Others reject these claims and insist that both institutions are constitutionally independent and should be allowed to carry out their responsibilities without interference. Supporters of opposition parties argue that every political party that satisfies the requirements of the law should be allowed to participate freely in the electoral process. They maintain that candidates should succeed or fail at the ballot box based on the votes cast by Nigerians rather than through administrative or legal obstacles. Some supporters of Mr. Peter Obi believe he remains one of the leading opposition figures ahead of the 2027 presidential election and argue that all qualified candidates should be given equal opportunities to contest. As preparations for the next general election continue, many Nigerians are calling for transparent electoral processes, equal treatment of all political parties and respect for democratic principles so that citizens can freely choose their leaders. Supporters of Mr. Peter Obi believe he has the leadership qualities to help reduce poverty in Nigeria if elected president in 2027. Supporters of Mr. Peter Obi have continued to describe him as one of Nigeria's most capable political leaders, expressing confidence that he would introduce policies aimed at reducing poverty and improving governance if elected president in the 2027 general election. Somehow, many of his supporters point to his record in public service and personal lifestyle as reasons they believe he is well suited for the nation's highest office. They often cite accounts of his approach to public spending and philanthropy as evidence of what they describe as prudent leadership and a commitment to the public interest. One example frequently mentioned by his supporters involves reports that, before becoming governor of Anambra State, an organization in which he served reportedly offered to build a personal house for him. According to those accounts, Mr. Obi allegedly declined the offer and instead requested that the funds be used to construct student dormitories for schools. Supporters say the organization agreed, resulting in the construction of hostels that continue to serve students years later. Those who support Mr. Peter Obi argue that this story reflects a leadership style focused on public welfare rather than personal gain. They believe such decisions distinguish him from many other politicians and demonstrate the type of governance they would like to see in Nigeria. Supporters also maintain that tackling poverty, improving education, strengthening the economy and promoting accountability should remain central priorities for the country's next administration. They believe Mr. Peter Obi possesses the qualities needed to pursue those objectives if elected. As the 2027 presidential election approaches, Nigerians from different political backgrounds continue to debate which candidate is best positioned to address the country's economic and governance challenges. Some Nigerians believe Atiku Abubakar's role in Nigeria's privatization program disqualifies him from leading the country. Some Nigerians have argued that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's role in Nigeria's privatization program during the administration of former President Olusegun Obasanjo should remain a major issue in assessing his suitability for the country's highest office. Somehow, critics of the former vice president have continued to question aspects of the privatization process carried out during that period, alleging that it lacked transparency and did not deliver the expected benefits to the Nigerian economy. They believe the program contributed to the transfer of valuable national assets under circumstances that remain controversial. Supporters of Mr. Atiku Abubakar have consistently denied allegations of wrongdoing and maintain that no court has found him guilty of corruption in relation to the privatization exercise. They argue that the program formed part of broader economic reforms undertaken by the government at the time. Some Nigerians have also expressed differing opinions on the issue of zoning, with some insisting that, based on the existing political understanding between the North and the South, the presidency should remain in the South after the North completed 2 consecutive terms. Others argue that every qualified Nigerian has a constitutional right to contest for the presidency regardless of region. Critics of Mr. Atiku Abubakar believe his decision to continue seeking the presidency despite the zoning debate has generated political controversy ahead of the 2027 general election. However, his supporters maintain that the electorate should decide who becomes president through a free and fair election. As political activities intensify, many Nigerians continue to debate issues of zoning, leadership, accountability and past public service records as they evaluate those seeking the nation's highest office. Concerned Nigerians have allegedly called on the federal government under President Bola Tinubu to maintain detailed and transparent records of all funds borrowed by the country and provide regular public accounts of how the money is spent. According to those expressing these concerns, the government has continued to rely on domestic and foreign borrowing to finance major projects and budget deficits. They argue that while borrowing is not unusual for governments, citizens have a right to know how such funds are utilized and what benefits they bring to the country. Somehow, critics believe Nigeria's growing debt profile has raised important questions about fiscal management and accountability. They argue that every loan obtained on behalf of the country should be accompanied by clear information on the projects financed, the amount disbursed and the expected economic impact. Some Nigerians have also questioned the role of the National Assembly in approving government borrowing, arguing that lawmakers should exercise stronger oversight to ensure borrowed funds are properly managed and spent in the public interest. There have also been reports that international financial institutions have offered different recommendations regarding Nigeria's borrowing strategy. However, government officials have maintained that borrowing remains necessary to finance infrastructure development and support economic reforms. Critics, however, insist that future borrowing should be approached with greater caution, especially at a time when many Nigerians continue to face economic hardship. They believe prudent financial management, transparency and accountability are essential to maintaining public confidence and protecting future generations from excessive debt. Some Nigerians remind the APC and President Bola Tinubu's government that no government remains in power forever. Some Nigerians at home and abroad have urged the federal government under President Bola Tinubu to remember that no administration remains in power indefinitely. They argue that every government should remain accountable to the people and respond constructively to public criticism. Somehow, those expressing this view believe that criticism from citizens should not automatically be seen as an attack on the government but rather as part of democratic engagement. They argue that governments should carefully consider public concerns and, where necessary, make policy adjustments that serve the national interest. Some critics have also alleged that individuals who openly express opposing political views sometimes face intimidation or pressure because of their opinions. They argue that democratic societies should protect freedom of expression and allow citizens to hold government officials accountable without fear. Government officials, however, have consistently maintained that Nigeria remains committed to constitutional rights and the rule of law. Some Nigerians have also criticized the public statements of certain government spokespersons and political office holders, arguing that greater restraint, professionalism and constructive communication would help strengthen public confidence in government. Critics further contend that governments should strive to govern inclusively by treating all Nigerians fairly regardless of political affiliation, ethnicity or religion. They believe that promoting national unity and respecting differing opinions are essential elements of democratic governance. As political activities continue ahead of the 2027 general election, many Nigerians are calling on political leaders to uphold democratic principles, remain accountable to the electorate and remember that public office is ultimately held in trust for the people.